Curry goat lo mein. If you've never heard of it before, it's because I made it up. And just like a middle child, just because I created it doesn't mean I remember anything about it. So let's see if we can recreate this thing from memory. I can't, so I'm gonna make things up as I go. Let's get started. Now our curry is going to be onion based, meaning we're gonna saute onions with ghee along with some spices and other aromatics, and then blend it all into a paste to give us that thick curry consistency that we love. Butchers that carry lamb and goat will have stewing meat, which is what you normally use. This is bone-in goat curry meat. We like the bones because the bones have flavor. The flavor of the goat is why it's so goated. Ouch. That hurt me. And you could trim the fat off of your lamb and your goat if you want. Personally, I think this would matter more if you were using coconut milk as your liquid, but because I'm using beef stock, I'm gonna leave all the fat in. Also to note, some people like to wash their lamb and goat meat before cooking. Oftentimes this is with a mixture of water and vinegar to get that gaminess out of the meat. But I think that's kind of the whole point with cooking with goat. That flavor, that gaminess paired off with a specific type of spices adds a different kind of depth of flavor to your dish. One that you normally wouldn't get with beef, chicken, vegetables, or any other kind of meat, except maybe lamb or duck. Speedy, quickie, lazy curry hack. If you don't want to go through doing all of this, you can just use this. Instant Japanese curry bricks. You've seen me use it before on some other videos. You can totally use it with this. I am sure it will taste great. And if you click right here, you'll see me use this with oxtails, just as an example. But I think it's about time that I make something from scratch. The aromatics that we shall use are as follows. Onions, shallots, garlic, and ginger. Normally, you just need 2 yellow onions, but I just happen to have these guys right here that are on their way out and I just want to use them up, so I'm gonna do that. But normally, yellow onions. Same goes for the shallot. This is just here because it's here. Not really necessary. The vegetables that we're adding to the curry are carrots and itty bitty red skin potatoes that are so small that I only have to cut them in half. I like using red skin potatoes because they are waxy and they can hold their shape in braising. If you use something starchy like a russet, it's going to crumble and melt into your curry, which will thicken it. That's kind of cool, but I want my potato to act more like a vegetable element in my curry. Yellow potatoes will work well. Red potatoes are the best for this purpose. For heat, I had some Serrano chilies over here that I'm going to use. We didn't find any habaneros, nor did we find any Scotch bonnets, unfortunately. So this is what I have, this is what I'm using. Oh, wait. So I'm still gonna use some of these, but I'm gonna reduce it to 3, because I still want that fresh chili flavor. But I do have 1 ghost pepper here that I will add to the mix. If you've never had a ghost pepper before, it is quite hot. It is one of the hottest peppers in the world, or chilies, I should say. So what you wanna do here is just to do a rough dice on your onions. And don't worry about getting them perfect. The most important thing here is you get them down to about the same size so that they all cook evenly together. And then you repeat this with all the onions that you're using. Now, if you're going to work with a larger batch of onions, if you're gonna make a lot of curry, for example, and you're going to chop up any more than I would say 3 or 4 onions, it would be worth it to save some time by using a food processor if you've got one, especially if you plan on washing your food processor parts in the dishwasher. So for the sake of time, that is what I'm gonna do with the rest of these. See, that was a lot faster. Since I've already used it anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing for the garlic and ginger. Mince these guys down. You wanna process your ginger first, and then do the garlic afterwards. And if you do it this way, you're gonna wanna make sure that the ginger and the garlic can be processed together, but separately from the onions because they cook at different times. Okay, now at this point it's pretty simple. You just take a tablespoon of ghee into a hot pan. Then you add a few tablespoons of your ginger and garlic. Let that get nice and aromatic. It's gonna smell good pretty much immediately. And then once it's really just released a lot of its aroma, Add in a tablespoon of Garam Masala. Oh, that was 2 tablespoons. We're gonna do 2 tablespoons. As well as a couple of tablespoons of curry powder. Now, the type of curry powder matters for this. Goat curry tastes amazing with allspice, and not all curry has allspice in it. So if you're using like a Southeast Asian curry or a South Asian curry, check to see if there's allspice in the mix. If there isn't, you'll have to add it in. If you're using a Jamaican curry powder, chances are there's already allspice in there, and that'll taste great with the goat. After your curry has been nicely toasted and fried, you can add in your onions. You are not trying to caramelize the onions here. You're just sweating them out. So you're having it release its water, release its aroma, start to mix in with the spices. Oops, my dog just knocked the tripod. Boba. You're just trying to sweat out the water, sweat out the aroma, mix in with the spices, and just get soft enough to blend. Am I overcrowding this pan? Yes, I am. Does it really matter because we're just sweating it out? Not really, no. Because I'm making quite a bit, I'm gonna work in batches. You can see I'm not using my food processor for this part. I prefer a very smooth blended curry, so I'm using like a dedicated blender to it, but you can use your food processor again if you wanted to. And you can see some brown bits at the bottom of the pan here. You definitely wanna loosen that up and add that to the rest of your curry, because that is some delicious stuff right there. Yeah. Now, at the end of sauteing your last batch of onions, whether you did 1 or 2, you want to get some of this caramelized fond at the bottom. If you just used a couple of onions, you need 2 cups, but I used a lot more, so I'm going to use 4. You can use chicken stock, you can use beef stock, you could use vegetable stock, whatever, just some like broth here, just mixed in with your last batch of aromatics before adding it all to the blender. Yeah. And now you're just gonna blend till smooth. Now, with your curry blended, or while it is blending, you wanna get started on browning your goat meat. Again, I don't feel a need to do any kind of washing with vinegar or anything. You just use fresh butchered goat meat and you just put it on the pan, maybe with some bit of oil. I'm not gonna do any with this pan because I'm still doing some testing on it. But you just get around to browning all the sides of the goat meat that you can until it's all done. And once your goat meat has nice and browned, set it aside, continue on with the rest of the meat that you have until it's all gone. And because I am a good person who deserves nice things, I'm gonna go ahead and toast these Serrano peppers in this little bit of goat fat before adding it into the curry. Now you can just take a napkin and rub all the char off. You can run it under some water, but just get as much of the skin and char off of it before adding it into the blender. I changed this to a pot because I just need more space. Just add everything in. Ooh, that smells nice. And once everything is in, allow it to stew for 45 minutes on low. You don't want it to boil over, you just want it to bubble on occasion. Everything's been heated up quite nicely. And at this point is when you also want to season with salt, as well as pepper to taste. It is also at this point where you want to throw in your whole spices. So I'm going to throw in a couple of pods of cardamom in here, some crushed allspice, some star anise, a couple of sticks of cinnamon, oops, and some cloves. This will make it nice and aromatic. I've got some ground spices here that I'm going to add, including some toasted cumin, coriander, and fennel. 45 minutes to get the goat meat nice and stewed in, and then we're gonna add our vegetables in and cook that in for another 45 minutes, and then we're ready to serve. It's been about 45 minutes, and I'm only just starting to slice the potatoes. I'm using red potatoes because they have a more waxy quality to them. And they hold up against being in stews and curries a whole lot better than russet potatoes. Russets are really starchy and will tend to crumble into whatever they're being cooked in, which is fine if what you want is less potato and a thicker stew. But here our curry is thick enough, and we want our potatoes to hold their shape. So what I did is I picked up some smaller red skin potatoes and I only cut them in half. This way they'll cook all the way through, but their exposure to liquid is limited, giving you a potato and curry that is nice and substantial. Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes fall somewhere in between russets and reds. They are somewhat waxy, but will eventually crumble before a red one will. Carrots, luckily, don't need quite as much thought. Just kind of slice them into whatever larger shapes you'd like. Larger and thicker carrots will stay crunchier for longer, but I still like adding them in because they add a little bit of sweetness to your curry. And then continue to cook. Check after 45 minutes. Now, traditionally, lo mein is cooked in the sauce, in the gravy, so that it has an opportunity to absorb all that flavor, but I wanted the pretty plating shot. So this is technically a curry noodle as opposed to a curry goat lo mein. If I had just like dumped some sauce in the pot, I would like consider it more of a lo mein. If you want the authentic lo mein technique, you cook the noodles, put the noodles in the pan, you cook the noodles with the sauce in the pan. I am salivating over this bowl right now. It smells so good. I can tell it's going to be very spicy because the steam hurts my eyes. Without further ado, we're just gonna go for it. Oh my God. This is everything that I just want in a curry bowl of noodle. This heat, flavor, there's sweetness from the carrot. There is just that rich, deep flavor from the goat. Obviously, you don't have to make it as spicy as I did. If you like spicy food, then by all means, do this. Goat meat, tender, so tender and so flavorful. Picks up that heat, picks up all those spices. Y'all have to try this. Y'all have to try this. Even if you don't make this, you have to give goat meat a chance. It's been goated for a long time. I can't keep a straight face. I'm just gonna keep eating. I'm not very good with the whole call to action thing. I forget most of the times, but if you like what you saw, helps out if you like and subscribe. Obviously, send this to a friend, send this to an enemy. Maybe they'll make it for themselves and maybe they'll make it really spicy and hurt themselves doing it. They'll be happy because it tastes good, but you can feel pretty good that you like hurt them in some way, possibly twice.